In general terms, the conspiracy took place between 2011 and 2017. Robert Leonard, aided by his associate Slater Swartwood, paid Sorrells and Caraway a combined total of more than $3.5 million in exchange for favorable official action related to force multiplier solutions, helping Leonard and his company secure over $70 million in contracts and agreements with Dallas County schools. Caraway and Sorrells used these illicit funds to, among other things, repay personal loans, acquire luxury clothing, fund personal trips to Las Vegas and New Orleans, and provide gambling money. Now I'd like to break down each of the guilty pleas for you. And I would also note that in your press packet, we have given you the plea documents as well as the visual that you see here. Starting with Robert Leonard. Robert Leonard paid Sorrells in excess of $3 million. And in exchange, Sorrells entered into contracts and licensing agreements between Dallas County schools and Force Multiplier Solutions. Sorrells approved hundreds of purchase orders for camera equipment costing millions of dollars, most of which was never installed and sat unused in a warehouse. He also entered into a $340,000 per month servicing agreement and a $25 million asset purchase licensing agreement. With respect to Councilmember Caraway, Leonard paid him over $450,000 in bribes, kickbacks, and other benefits, in addition to directly or indirectly contributing to his political campaign. Caraway asked for and received money from Leonard on numerous occasions. Leonard would at times pay Caraway with checks, which Caraway then negotiated at liquor stores in town. Leonard also paid for Caraway to travel to New Orleans, Las Vegas, Austin, and these trips were fully funded. He also paid for security cameras for Caraway's home, a loan for Caraway's father's home, funeral expenses for family members, a campaign bus, casino chips, and gambling funds for the horse truck. In return, Caraway, in his official capacity, took action benefiting Force Multiplier Solutions, voting on ordinances needed to promote the Stop Arm program in 2012, pressuring the city attorney's office to provide a favorable opinion as to the propriety of fines associated with the Stop Arm cameras, and promising to use his position on the council to further Leonard's interest in real estate developments. Importantly, in 2005, to promote the Stop Arm camera program, Caraway gave a speech in support of renewing the Stop Arm agreement, motioned for a vote on the issue, and voted to renew the agreement. Caraway never disclosed the money or benefits he received from Leonard or Force Multiplier. Councilmember Caraway also pled guilty this morning to tax evasion. He admitted that he evaded the reporting of the income tax on the benefits and payments that he received from Leonard during the tax years 2012 through 2014. In court this morning, he admitted that he failed to disclose the income specifically for tax year 2014, and that he knowingly filed a false and fraudulent tax return for that year. Let me stop just a minute to explain the crime of honest service fraud. Honest services fraud is when someone uses deceit to deprive the public of their right to honest and fair representation by their public officials. Honest services fraud takes away from a citizen their intangible right to representation, honest representation from their public officials. In this case, Caraway and Leonard, working together with Sorrells and Swartwood, forms the basis for this conspiracy, and it is this conduct that forms the basis for the honest services fraud. The scheme to defraud and the corruption in this case deprived the citizens of the city of Dallas from the honest services of Caraway and Sorrells. As a result, Dallas County Schools paid Force Multiplier over $70 million for the Stop Arm camera and the resulting licensing agreements. This program generated little revenue, and return, and put Dallas County Schools in a position where they incurred intolerable levels of debt. This case, and the guilty pleas in this case, reflect harmful and criminal conduct by both politicians and business executives. Public officials who betray their position of trust harm the integrity of our government. Business executives who betray the trust of their companies, their shareholders, their employees, by bribing public officials, harm the integrity of the marketplace. Let me also speak briefly as to why the investigation of this conspiracy took longer than anyone would want. Caraway, Leonard, Sorrells, and Swartwood, as admitted in their plea documents, took great efforts to conceal their bribes and kickback payments. In many instances, Leonard did not make payments directly to Caraway. Instead, Leonard made payments through a pass-through entity, one of which was ELF Investments. These pass-through entities were set up and controlled by the associate Slater Swartwood. Caraway and others opened shell companies to receive the proceeds from ELF Investments, and they did so to obscure the fact that they were receiving the funds. Caraway and Leonard also created sham consulting agreements to provide an air of legitimacy and to cover their tracks. Finally, Caraway and Leonard recharacterized past payments as so-called loans and executed fake loan documents to conceal the nature of the payments. There were some direct payments, but even those checks were often made out to cash and then negotiated at liquor stores and pawn shops. The concealment was far-reaching. The co-conspirators concealed these payments from employees of Dallas County Schools, they concealed it from the citizens of the school districts, and they concealed it from City of Dallas officials. As you all know, Dallas County Schools was left bankrupt by the agreements it entered into with Force Multiplier. In November of 2017, voters of Dallas County abolished the organization, founded in 1876, due to reports of financial mismanagement and safety concerns. Dallas County Schools ceased operations on July 31st of this year, just a little over a week ago. As I said at the beginning, this day is both a reckoning and a reconciliation. Reckoning for people who engaged in a significant scheme to defraud. This case highlights how devastating, unethical, and illegal influence over public officials can be to our citizens. An entire public entity relied upon by parents and school children alike was destroyed in the wake of this scandal. A day of reckoning was surely needed. But this day is also, hopefully, about reconciliation, perhaps a starting point, for returning to harmony after conflict. The citizens of Dallas deserve honest government, and there is absolutely no level of acceptable public corruption. The challenges in a public corruption case are many, but we in federal law enforcement are uniquely suited to investigate these cases. Public corruption will always be a top priority for this office and for federal law enforcement. Corruption does not merely strike at the heart of good government. When left unchecked, it erodes public confidence and undermines the strength of our very democracy.